Hey podcasters, welcome to the Sean Hare Show, where we learn how to break the slimming cycle by mastering your mind, meals and movement. Messed it up a little bit there. Anyway, I'm in an airport today, so apologies if there's a bit of background noise. Today's episode is actually an interview where I was a guest on the podcast with my good friend Steve on his Break the Chains, Find Your Flame podcast. So I'm going to shut up now and let Steve do all his intros. While he's doing that, I'll just put a little bit of a audio wave thing in, so it looks like there's something on the video if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube. Otherwise, listen in and you get to see our lovely faces in a minute. Let's get into it.
Welcome to the Break the Chains, Find Your Flame podcast. My name is Steve Wolpolinick. I'm a licensed mental health counselor and one of the founders of the Promethean Project. Our guests are people who have broke the chains of their limitations and found the strength of their potential. We offer their stories as inspiration and as guidance to help others navigate their quest to find their flame. This podcast is made possible by the Promethean Project, a nonprofit wellness center creating a one-stop shop for mental, physical, holistic health and wellness. For every $100 raised, the Promethean Project is able to help one person in need through different programming, such as the Brian Odean Leadership Initiative, the Jared Kozlik Mentorship Program, or the Strengthening Healthy Families Program. Please visit theprometheanproject.org/donate to help us make a difference. Welcome to episode 12. It's a pleasure to have you guys back. Amazing episode we have today with the one, the only Sean Hare. Sean is a good friend of mine. We met at the Progressive Calisthenics certification in New York about 3 years ago, and he's been really busy ever since. He has a book out on Amazon. Check it out. It's called Finding Your Balance. He also has the Sean Hare Academy, which is an online training program, which is getting really good reviews and really good supports. So you should check that out too if you're looking to make a change in your life. And he has the Sean Hare Show, which is his podcast, which if you haven't checked it out yet, you should definitely check it out soon. He's got some awesome guests, including a man with a great beard and beautiful blue eyes. I'm going to edit that part out. Sean and I sat down today and we talked a little bit about what he calls the slimming cycle, which is this idea of going on a diet, breaking the diet, eating a bunch of food, going on a diet, breaking the diet, binging on a bunch of food, going on a diet, breaking the diet, and so on and so forth. I think you understand what I'm talking about. Sean is really well versed in personal training, but besides that, he makes it his mission to diversify on his knowledge base and really enjoys learning. He knows a lot about nutrition. He knows a lot about fads out there. And if you listen to this podcast, he has a 3-part mini-series all about calories and how they work. So if you've ever been mystified about that process, check out his 3 episodes on what calories are. The name of the episode comes from a conversation that we were having about advertisements regarding how to get a flat belly, how to lose weight. He quoted Russell Brand on one of Russell's comedy stand-ups about how if it has an advert, you probably don't need it. And I think that chose the name for this podcast to be Advert Not Needed, because that's exactly what Sean does. He doesn't really need to advertise his philosophy or his way of doing things. It's just the right way to do it. So on that note, without further ado, let's get into the episode.
In a world where humanity's potential is imprisoned and locked away, our only hope is to break the chains and find our flame.
I find like starting podcasts to be really awkward to know the exact way to lead into it. So I'm just gonna start with introducing Sean Herr, a good friend of mine from we met in PCC about 3 years ago. I had the honor to be on your podcast, and now you're on my podcast. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited. I'm excited, but a bit nervous to be on the other side of the mic, which I'm sure you were as well last time.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's kind of, I think podcasting is kind of cool because you can control the dynamic of where you go with it for the most part. But when you're on the other side, it's kind of like, oh, do I say that now? Do I wait? Or how do we operate?
Yeah.
So Sean, can you introduce yourself to all the listeners out there?
Yeah. So my name is Sean Herr. I've been a personal trainer for about coming up to 6 years. So I got into that through uni because before that I didn't do anything like physical, really. I avoided sport and PE at school if I could.
Yeah.
Didn't have a particularly sporty family or anything like that. So starting uni for me was, like my chance to get healthier, to make sure that I didn't go down the same path as my family. And I joined the gym the day I got to uni in halls, paid for the membership for the whole year as my initial kind of incentive for myself to go. Because like I said, I wasn't into sports or anything. So that was kind of my initial incentive. And then it just snowballed. I ended up reading more about like health and fitness and nutrition and everything than I was about my actual course, to the point where I then left uni, did a PT course, and that's kind of what I've been doing ever since. And I've done different things over the years, and now I've just moved to putting everything online because I feel like I'll be able to help a wider range of people that way rather than just the however many in my gym.
Right.
So that's where I've gone to right now.
What was the original track in uni for you?
Oh, originally in uni, I was studying physics. So not the same. I was just good at it. And like most people starting uni, I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Right.
I knew I liked physics. I knew I was good at it and it was interesting to me. And so I just went and did that. And I thought I'll just go through it, do the bachelor's, do the master's, maybe do the PhD, go into research, because that sounded fun at the time. But then the studying of it just got boring because it was just, you'd go into a lecture, the lecturer would just write equation after equation, deriving equations on the whiteboard. You'd have to write it down as quick as you could and then try and understand it later. And I just didn't enjoy that. The only bit I did enjoy was labs and like the practical part of it.
Yep.
And it was funny with labs because I enjoyed the actual experimenting part and playing with the equipment in a way. So I kind of knew what was going on and what we were doing with it and sort of the theory behind it anyway. So I'd make the equipment do different stuff and do cool things. And then all like friends in class would be like, how have you done that? Like, why is it doing that? And I was like, well, because blah, 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 this and this. And then like the lab instructors would come over and say, why is that happening? And I'd say, oh, well, because this and this. And they just go, yeah, don't do that. Just stick to the script and do what you're supposed to do. And I was like, well, that's not what science is about. Like, you're supposed to just mess around with it and see what happens. That's how we discover stuff. But so yeah, I kind of saw my arse with it then. I was like, forget this. I'm gonna go into fitness instead.
Nice. Well, I mean, I think fitness is a cool transition because it is science based, but it is more like every day is a lab day where you get to experiment with, different combinations of things and movements and a bunch of different philosophy of that stuff. So
yeah, like whenever if I look at a client and how they're moving, I kind of see them as a mechanics diagram, as if I was studying physics of like the forces and the angles and the tensions and stuff, which I
Right.
think helps because I just think of it that way in terms of their movements, at least anyway, which is always interesting for me to look at people that way.
Yeah, that biodynamic kind of ability to see what might be off a little bit in someone is amazing. I go to a chiropractor because I have a injury in my neck and my shoulder from when I fell downstairs
Hmm.
as a young kid. And as soon as I walked in, he pretty much told me like what was out of alignment. He's like, "Oh yeah, no,
Yeah,
your left side's definitely lower than your right side just from how you're standing." And in my head, I was like, I prepared a whole speech on what's wrong with me, and you just saw it in 5 seconds.
yeah, yeah. It's cool when you can when you find someone like that who can help you like that as well. So girlfriend's dad just came in.
No worries.
Yeah,
Shout out to girlfriend's dad.
yeah.
Um, so we referenced I referenced, and I think on your podcast you referenced that we originally met at the PCC, and when we did your podcast, I kind of took you off the rails on on what you wanted to focus on that. So I figured the beginning parts of this we could kind of touch base on your experiences with the progressive calisthenics certification and what it was like to come to the heart of New York and kind of be in that atmosphere.
Yeah, there's two parts of that. Obviously, there's the PCC part and there's the New York part. So the PCC part, that was for anyone who doesn't know what it is, who hasn't been listening or whatever. That's a calisthenics course, which is just body weight strength, progressive body weight strength, which was something I was really getting into at the time, just because I was bored of lifting weights, and I've been following Al Cavadlo's channel since I was in uni, and saw that he was doing a course, saw that he was doing it in New York, and thought I may as well go to where he's from because I've never been, so why not?
Right.
But yeah, the course was awesome. Like just seeing and understanding more about the progressions, and the thing I use more often than not is the regressions as well that I
Right.
hadn't thought of. So kind of your angled push up, doing them on the back of a couch or something before you try and do them on your knees. That's something that in every class I would run in the gym, or starting clients on. That's in there because people in classes, for example, they've been going to classes for ages, and classes are mostly body weight based, light dumbbells, kettlebells, things like that. But when people try and do push-ups, they've usually got a step, but then they can't do anything on the step still because they're not even strong enough for that yet. And
Right.
so you do two or three maybe decent reps, and the rest is just horrendous. Like doesn't even look like they're doing anything. It doesn't look like a push-up at least anyway. And so yeah, those regressions were really interesting to learn and useful. They're probably the most useful thing because it's all well and good knowing how to progress someone to a muscle up, but if they
Right.
can't even if they're nowhere near a pull up, there's no point knowing the rest. So I think that's probably the best thing that I took from the PCC is that part. And then yeah, New York was just a whole different thing because that was the first time I'd ever traveled on my own as well.
Oh, nice.
That was just a big adventure for me going to New York. It was first time getting on a plane on my own, like booking into a hotel on my own, and all this stuff. So it really was kind of like a like the next step into being a grown up, if you like, because I'd never done that. And so then yeah, it was just after outside of the PCC, I was just walking about, getting the subway, just seeing as much as I could on the tightest budget that
Right.
I
Yeah.
could. But it's good because I can't. I'm good at like picking up like traveling and stuff like that in places to the point where I was giving other tourists tips on how to use the subway and get about.
Oh, nice.
That felt good. I was just sitting there, with my headphones on, listening to something, probably a podcast, and a guy came up and he was like, "Oh, hey, can you help me get to like how do you get to this place?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, you're on the wrong side. You need to go on there, go to the other side of the subway, and then that'll take you that way." And they goes, "All right, cool," and gets off. And I thought, does this mean I'm a local? I think it does. I think I've made it. Yeah, that
I
was
mean,
nice.
the New York subways are are pretty great. If you go up to Boston, the subway system doesn't make any sense
Oh,
out
right.
there. There's a bunch of different color lines that don't really, they're not really cohesive. The whole city itself in Boston is just built off of cow paths that already
Right.
existed. So it's not a grid or anything. It's just
Ah,
a
yeah,
random back street kind of thing. So that's the
yeah.
next challenge. Come up to Boston and navigate that for tourists and we'll consider you a local.
Yeah, well, that'd probably be more like London, because London obviously isn't built on a grid either. It's just gone from whatever it was back in the day as well. So I hope it shouldn't be too bad, but I'll come and try it and let you know.
Now I'm sure you're capable enough. If I can navigate it, you can. So yeah, I actually
Yeah.
something we've never talked about is I actually lived out in England for 5 years when I was younger. My dad
Oh,
was in the Air Force, and so we lived at a base called Bentwaters, and
right.
we used to actually get to go to London every so often.
Yeah.
Uh, I think I was 7, so it was like right at a good time to go to the Tower of London and like the Armory and all that
Yeah.
stuff because it really piqued my interest. And I just remember the weekends were amazing because we could just go to a local castle,
Yeah.
and that really my imagination just boomed from that. So I know we've never talked about it, but it's a fond memory I had of being able to travel outside of the Air Force Base every weekend and see the culture.
Yeah. Whereabouts is that base? Is it down
Oh
south, is
man,
it?
I don't remember because I was 7.
Oh, I
It
suppose,
was
yeah.
near a town called Woodbridge,
I
but I
don't
don't
let's
remember where Woodbridge is.
yeah.
I don't-
I don't
I'll,
know.
I'll
There's so
probably
many little places.
Yeah, I'll look it up after we're done here, and I'll put in the show notes too.
Yeah, yeah. In case anyone wants to go visit.
Yeah, I think one of the funniest things I remember was um, the difference in Pizza Huts.
Okay.
Because I remember Pizza Hut in the States, and I was a very picky eater. I only liked, uh, cheese pizza. And I remember
Yeah.
going to a place in London, and they had corn on the pizza, and I was like, "This is amazing! It's way different." And I think my older siblings were just like, "What are you doing? There's so much other different culture, and you're just
Yeah.
going on and on about how there's corn on Pizza Hut pizza." Thank you for taking the time to listen to our podcast. If you or someone you know would like to be on the podcast, please outreach to us at info@theprometheanproject.org. If you want to learn more about the Promethean Project, or if you would like to donate to our cause, you can reach us at theprometheanproject.org. If you really do enjoy this podcast, please share with your friends. Please like our posts on social media, on Instagram and on Facebook. And please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or any podcast app that you like to listen to. Again, thank you for taking a listen. And remember that the most important step is always the next one.